Drake, what's come over you? Drake, what are you doing?
What?
Everybody's a suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Wolfman's got Nards!
Shocking Dark, aka Terminator 2, is a 1989 horror movie directed by Vincent Dawn, and it stars Christopher Aarons, Haven Tyler, and Greta Garetta. Now, this is a Patreon request by OG Myers, and I'll be honest, I don't know what on earth he was thinking with making me watch this movie. I don't know if he's asked me to watch this movie for a laugh, or if he actually thinks it's a genuinely good movie. I know that some people like really bad movies so much that they're actually quite good, like for example The Room from 2003. But this isn't one of them. This is one of those bad movies that is so bad, it's just actually bad. In a polluted future, Venice researchers work to improve the situation. One day, unknown forces start killing them. A team of soldiers and a couple of civilians is sent to investigate. Soon they encounter strange, murderous creatures. On paper, that story doesn't seem so bad. It seems like, reading that synopsis, you're thinking that could be a good movie if it's in the right hands. But even though that is what happens in the movie, it doesn't come across that way when you're watching it. When I was watching it, it was very confusing. Even I understood what was happening, I could see where they were going with it, but it was still quite questionable as to how they went about doing the things that they did.
Oh my god! There are lots of them!
I mean, come on, what is that acting?
And just who are you?
Samuel Fuller from the Tubular Corporation.
Tubular. This was filmed in 1988, and it was filmed as a semi-sequel to the original Terminator movie from 1984. They even went as far as to call it Terminator 2 outside of the US, but most notably it's known as Shocking Dark. They even went as far as to call the main character Sarah. Even though they filmed this in 1988, the look and the feel, the outfits, the equipment, everything looked like a futuristic 1984. You know, back in 1984 when they had all this futuristic stuff, you could tell it's outdated now in 2019, but you can tell it was filmed and set in 1984. And that's exactly the same as this movie, so it was, for a 1989 movie, it was way out of date.
You still haven't realized that I'm immortal. I'm the most perfect thing ever constructed by the Tubular Corporation.
Oh. It had obvious nods to the Terminator, with one of the main characters being a cyborg, being a human cyborg. But it also felt like two other movies, and I'll get to one of them in a minute, but it felt like Aliens from 1986. You've got the Ripley character, and then we're introduced to this Newt character as well, and there's some scenes where it looks like they just directly ripped off Aliens. There's a hilarious scene involving the Terminator in this. He doesn't want people to know that he's not human. He doesn't want them to know he's a Terminator, and he gets wounded, as in a malfunctioned, and you can see a bit of his mechanics coming out of his arm, sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator, and he holds onto it, covering it up as if it's sore, and he doesn't want people to see it. Now, this guy is wearing long sleeves, and they're rolled up. So all he has to do is roll his sleeves down, but no, instead he holds on to his wound. You couldn't make this up. Now I'm going to get into, this could be a positive, I don't know. I'm going to get into it anyway. Now, another movie that it felt like was Escape from New York, and not just the whole situation of Escape from New York, the look of Escape from New York, the quietness of Escape from New York, and also that soundtrack that they put into this. Now, the one thing that I did enjoy in this film, and it's so bizarre that I did enjoy this, but I did enjoy the soundtrack, the score, the theme in this film felt very late 80s, and it was obviously very late 80s, but I did enjoy that. Anytime the score came on, I thought, oh, that's something nice to listen to, and it felt like Escape from New York. It felt like a John Carpenter film, and some of the scenes were filmed like John Carpenter movies, with sometimes you had a very wide angle. There's a lot of close-ups as well, but you had this very wide angle that made the movie seem bigger and grander than it actually was, and it had this sort of blue hue over it now and again, and that was a nice touch. It was obviously accidental, and if it wasn't accidental, I don't know why they didn't continue on doing this throughout the whole movie. Near the finale, when we find out not only are these monsters trying to kill these people, we find out that this guy is not a guy, he's a Terminator, and he comes back after the Newt and Ripley get out and they're running about Venice, and then she sees the Terminator, his face is fine, and she picks up this piece of glass and she swings it at him, and he moves away and he turns around to the camera, and this big massive gash at the side of his face from this little bit of glass caused this. They could have done that a lot better, and I think they obviously wanted to show their prosthetic skills, and the prosthetics were not too bad, but the way he got his wound was absolutely hilarious. As you can tell with some of the clips that I've included in this review, the acting is absolutely diabolical. I don't know how somebody managed to make this movie with a budget and show it to an audience before bringing it out in theatres and thinking this was a great movie, because a great movie it is not. Would I recommend this movie to anyone? Probably not, but sometimes you do have these really bad movies that you want people to see just to show how bad it is, and you do get some of these bad movies that are enjoyable and you actually have to watch it again. This is a borderline bad movie that you would watch again, but it's probably a movie that I would never watch again myself. If I was going to watch this movie again, it would have to be to show somebody else how bad this movie actually is. So thanks to OG Myers for recommending me to watch this movie. I would never in a million years have watched this movie. I did know that it was called Terminator 2 in other countries, and just by looking at the poster and the VHS covers, I said to myself, I will avoid this movie at all costs. But because it was a Patreon request, I had to watch it, and I was surprised at what I saw. So have any of you seen Shocking Dark, aka Terminator 2? If you have, guys, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the movie. I know that Terminator Dark Fate was bad, but woof, this was terrible. As always, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.